How about another victory episode? How about a revenge victory episode of Banditland Boulevard? The Bandits go into the Saddledome, take down the Roughnecks 11-6. Every rose has its thorn, Brett Michaels once said. And I think the thorn in the side of Nick Rose was his old pal in the Buffalo Bandits. 11-6, a complete reverse of what happened last week. Bandits get their revenge. Hey, they get Moe's 10 wins. That's double-digit wins. 25%
Sure do.
25% off your entree at Moe's, hopefully, if you guys went there. I couldn't guarantee you that at all. But hey, 10-2, top of the league on a weekend where the Bandits get a win and Saskatchewan, who's in second place, gets a loss.
Mm-hmm.
I would say pretty successful weekend, Tony.
I would sure say so myself. That was a definite wake-up call for our defense, especially with Ron John and Keel Matisse. Keel Matisse getting his first goal as a Bandit already right off the
First
gate,
goal of
and
the
then
game,
Ron
too.
very smart as a defender. I don't see why these guys can't be scary now with the fact of it's kind of like the signings with Dawson and Connor Farrell at the time. Now we go on our massive run and we don't look back.
Yeah, I mean, this was probably the most complete game I've seen Matt Vince play all year. We
Yeah,
talked about him last week and how bad he was the week before. Boy, oh boy, did he make up for it this week, holding them
sure
down to
did.
6. A team that has Dane Dobie coming back in the lineup, the fact that you only held him to 6,
Mm-hmm.
that is vintage Matt Vince. That's what it is. Invincible vintage Matt Vince. You have your, some stuff that you still got to work on. I mean, more consistently coming out of the gate. I think the Bandits are still kind of flat-footed there in the first quarter, and they have plenty of the season left to figure those things out. And we do have playoff scenarios going into this week that we can go over later on in the show. Face-offs can do a little bit of work, and special teams, but man, 11-6. I mean, I really didn't expect a 5-goal victory out of these guys, and you know what?
Mm-mm.
Thank God that they did, because that was the win that they needed going into this weekend where they play a back-to-back. You don't want to go into this weekend on a back-to-back, coming off of back-to-back losses against the same team in the Calgary Roughnecks. So they took care of business. And by the way, one for the first time in the Saddledome since God only remembers how long. Well, I don't even remember the last time those guys won in the Saddledome, but hey, they came in, especially in that second half, dominated. The secondary guys were really showing up, just like what Tony was saying in the preview. You need your secondary guys to show up. Kyle Buchanan continues this hot streak, man. I mean, another hat trick for this guy. Seems like an ageless wonder. Josh Byrne is racking the points up again, not to the point where we're used to seeing. He's up to 6 points in this game, but hey, he's still getting it done. Josh Byrne getting 13 shots on goal. I mean, your secondary guys, they showed up, they showed out. Buchanan, Fraser, Nick Weiss scoring a goal. Like you mentioned before, Kyle Matisse scoring the first goal of the game for the Bandits. And how about Ron John making some noise out of the transition? I saw him setting up a couple plays there early, especially early on in the game. But I mean, this is why the Bandits are so good. They're so equipped as far as their depth and as far as their roster is built that they don't need Dane to be Dane every single week. They don't need Josh to be Josh every single week. When you got Kyle Buchanan clicking and you got Chase Fraser finding the back of the net, Tehoka Nanticoke looking great, Nick Weiss stepping up out of transition and scoring goals, you're going to win games. And that's exactly what the Buffalo Bandits did this week.
Yeah, it's especially nice to have a well-balanced team, is not to put so much weight on one side, especially with like Josh Byrne and Dane Smith doing all the most of the scoring. But like you stated, Josh Byrne having a consistent, let's see, he had like 6 points the last game. He had 6 points this past game. I guess his team is really relying on their secondary scoring, like with Kyle Buchanan now taking the reins. Chase Fraser having 2 goals himself, and then Tehoka Nanticoke still making a lot of noise in the middle, and he still gets a goal and he still contributes. And, that's all we ever ask for is a whole team effort, and that's basically how you're going to win these games. But what a massive jump from giving up 17 from the previous game to dropping them under 10 and only allowing 6. Matt Vince basically played pissed off. And what did he do? He came out to be what he is. He is the best in the game. And this defense waking up to this offense and shutting down Curtis Dixon to 0 goals. And yes, Dane Dobie came back. He did score 2.
Yeah.
But again, what what does this team ever do when they lose? They always come back fighting stronger the next game. And of course, this is the kind of sight we want to see, especially with 2 games in hand, Friday then Saturday, coming up this weekend.
And I do think, Tony, that we can talk about this real quick about playoff implications. The Bandits do clinch going into the next week, and we're going to talk about this more on the pregame. But the Bandits clinch with one victory this weekend and a Calgary loss, or one Bandits victory and a Vancouver loss, or back-to-back Bandit victories. They can win Friday and Saturday. It doesn't matter what Calgary and Vancouver do. They automatically clinch a playoff spot. But just need one of those scenarios to happen, and the Bandits can clinch as early as March 22nd.
That's great.
I think it is. Hey, how about that? If you told me that going into this year, I would have taken that 10 times out of 10. But hey, talking about this game, though, this was just a classic Matt Vince kind of game. He wasn't letting a lot of the early goals really affect him. I know that the Roughnecks, this kind of reminded me a lot of the Saskatchewan road game. It really, really did. Jumping off to an early start and then getting absolutely shut out in the second quarter. And then right after halftime, you're like, you had that feeling in the back of your mind that, hey, the Bandits had this game in the bag. Matt Vince is playing out of his mind. The defense, we can talk about a good defensive game. How about that? How long has it been on this show since we talked about a solid defensive performance? And, despite, I know we say this all the time, Tony, more face-off wins equals more possessions. Calgary obviously won a lot more face-offs, but you can tell those lackadaisical shots in the second half really were just missing the net. A lot of shots were getting blocked. Both teams shooting 51 shots on net, despite the Bandits only winning 6 face-offs out of 21.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's still not very good, and the Bandits are still taking penalties and stuff like that. Similar to last week. I mean, the Roughnecks went 50% on the power play. The Bandits went 0% on the power play. So there are things that the Bandits need to work on despite the 10-2 record, but you got to win the games on your schedule, and that's exactly what they did. The Bandits found their old ways against Nick Rose, a very, very familiar face against this organization. And, I mean, I don't even want to call it a complete team win. I want to say this as a big defensive win. 11 goals might not be enough to beat this Calgary Roughnecks team. The Bandits scored 11 the week prior, and they got blown out by a touchdown against these guys. So sometimes 11 goals is a wild card. You don't always win games in the National Lacrosse League by scoring 11 goals. The defense came up. The defense showed up and showed out. They guided Kyle Buchanan. They guided the secondary scorers along the way. Josh Byrne picking up a few goals in this one as well. Defense wins championships, I think Ray Lewis once said. And wow, defense and goaltending really came to play. The real question is, Tony, can Matt Vince carry this momentum into this weekend where he's probably going to be playing back-to-back games? We've been seeing, this has been a pattern this year, Tony. Matt Vince has a game where he holds them to under 10 goals, maybe even under 7 goals like this week. And then the next week comes around, he gives up maybe 14 or 15. Do you think Matt Vince, going up against the last place team in the league and the second last place team in the league on back-to-back nights, one at home, one on the road, can he carry this in? I think that's a huge question we need to ask going into the pregame. But, Tony, how freaking good was Matt Vince this week? 51 shots on goal, making 44 saves. How good was Matt Vince this week, man?
Oh, he was dialed in. No matter what, he was relying on his defense. He was relying on his team to really have his back. And believe me when I say this, when you have a goaltender who is on point, your defense gets better. And they work as one. They don't go individually wise. They don't go to I'm going to step over here, give you a full lane. I'm going to block the shot. I'm going to be your go-to second goaltender, or I'm going to be your third guy to go in and block the shot. It was watching the replay of, I'd have to say, Game 3 of Albany and Buffalo back in the finals where we beat them 13-4. That's the realistics of how good our defense has really been solidifying, as when they look back at the tapes and they see the missed flaws and they see where their mistakes were from the previous game at home and carried into Calgary, they adjusted very fast. They knew exactly what they had to do to fix it, and they exploited how Calgary's offense was absolute dog shit. And I'm sorry to say that on live air, but
it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
It wasn't good. And this was a game where we kept our opponents to the very lowest that we've ever seen this team do, not playoff mode. But, I mean, last year's playoff mode for only allowing 4, that's a goal per game against your what you're opposing trying to score against you, is only allowing 1 goal per period. That's sick.
Yeah, 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, but in this game alone, 6 is pretty damn good to keep your opponents at bay.
Yeah.
And that's like school back all over again, maybe, if they're lucky to get 6.
I mean, let me just put it to you this way. They scored 3 goals in the first quarter.
Correct.
They also scored 3 goals in the entire second half. They scored 3 goals for the rest of the second half. That was
scary.
They scored 3 goals in the first, and then for the remaining 3 quarters, scored 3 goals. So the Bandits defense, Thomas Whitty had a fantastic night. Steve Priolo had a much better night. I mean, Kyle Matisse, you can already see the impact that he's leaving on the transition and defense when he's playing. Paul Dawson with a big bounce back week. I don't think a defenseman on this team really had a bad game. Cam Wires picking up loose balls like it was freaking money or something like that. Maybe it was like a, candy on Halloween. He was picking those up. What did he get, 11? He got 7. 7 loose balls. Cam Wires was all over the place. We even saw Ian McKay dropping back on defense, blocking some shots too. That was pretty cool. And Matt Vince, I will give him credit, blocking the shoulder side. I'm like, dude, where was that last week? Why couldn't we block the shoulder side last week? And it's amazing to me when the Bandits find a guy like Curtis Dixon and double team him. You see how the Calgary offense is run. When you double their best player, this is how they play. This is why they have 7 losses on the season. This is what I was trying to tell you guys a couple weeks ago in the preview before the first Calgary game. If you cover their stars, there's a reason why they lost 6 games at the time, why they have a 500 record, why they're the 7 or 8 seed in the standings. It's that reason alone. Number one, your defense is very inconsistent. We saw that in the second half. Their defense, I will tip my cap to their defense in the first half. They were doing all that they could. Nick Rose had a phenomenal game despite giving up 11 goals on 51 shots. I thought that he was holding his own for most of that game, and the fourth quarter kind of got away from him. The Bandits did they did start to pull away there late in the fourth quarter, and but Nick Rose was really keeping them in the game the whole time. Offense wasn't giving them anything. When I said in the beginning of the episode, it was a complete reverse of what happened last week. The Bandits offense couldn't give their defense and company any opportunity to pull away with any sort of lead. And then fast forward 8 days later, actually, Calgary, the same thing happens to them. The same old story, except rewritten in a different way. And the Bandits 11-6 victors over Calgary. And I know we were all predicting like, hey, this is, expect this to be back and forth. And watching the game for the first and second quarter, you thought it was going to be back and forth. And then the Bandits slowly started to pull away like they usually do against a player like Nick Rose. And now Nick Rose can exhale because he played them 4 times already. And there's a possibility that he can play him a 5th time in the playoffs, depending on how the standings roll out at the end of the year. But he could take a step back now. He's done against the Bandits in regular season mode.
Yeah, Nick Rose now going 1-3 this year against Buffalo, and he's probably thinking to himself, man, what a nightmare, losing 75% of my games to that team alone. But it also states that the fact that, you go from Toronto to Calgary, and I feel like Calgary's got that much firepower better than Toronto has, especially with names like Jesse King. They got Thomas Cook, guys that can also score as well. But again, like we were stating, the defense of the Buffalo Bandits has picked up where they left off, where they should be all year round. And that's what I'm so happy that they had to make that major adjustments, really, because after losing 6 goals at home, you're kind of going, man, we really don't owe Banditland to that. That was horrible. So I'm glad that they made amends. Shots were fair. It's a great lacrosse game to watch between these two. But again, the better half, the Buffalo Bandits, became the better. So they are on top, and they're still looking down to their opponents going into the next game on Friday.
Absolutely. And I mean, imagine being a Bandit fan there sitting in the Saddledome, hearing the PA announcer saying, "What's he got?" Could you imagine how weird that would be? You sitting in another building and another PA announcer saying, "What's he got?" And the other fan base is saying nothing. That's another reason why I love watching the Bandits beat the Roughnecks, because I mean, no
It's like
original
feeling-
ideas, no original ideas in the PA world, I guess. But everyone wants to be Chris Swenson because he's the absolute GOAT and
Yes, he is.
whatever. But every time I heard that, I'm like, is he saying what's he got? I'm like, dude, you got to come up with some of your own material, my guy. Like, what is up with that? But hey, you know what? If they're mimicking Chris Swenson, they think he's the GOAT, just say he's the GOAT and say, courtesy of Chris Swenson, what's he got? Yeah. I don't know. I always just thought that was kind of funny. There's a lot of parody going on in the league with that stuff, like Rosie, Dougie, all that stuff. I mean, we got to get some original ideas because, I mean, if Swenny can come up with them, I think, Swenny always talks about himself like, dude, I'm this old guy that does this or whatever. And I don't know how much longer I have left, but he always comes up with new ideas. I'm like, if Chris Swenson can come up with ideas, anybody else could as well, because you guys got the job as PA announcer. Chris Swenson is the absolute GOAT. He's an absolute unit. He comes up with new material all the time. He tests stuff out for sure, tests out what works and what doesn't. But I mean, he came up with the Buchanan, Josh, Byrne, like all that other stuff. I'm sure that all it takes is just a little bit of thought and you can come up with your own thing. But God, every time I heard what's he got, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what the hell are we doing? But
it's
hey,
not Swenny.
It's not Swenny. It's not Swenny. You and if you're gonna copy someone in the corporate field, that's called a cease and desist. So or plagiarism. So get some of your own material and leave our boy Chris Swenson alone because he's the absolute GOAT. But you know what? I love beating Calgary. I love getting some revenge against those guys. I love beating Nick Rose. But I think the Bandits right now they're just looking, and their mission right now is to clinch playoffs no matter what. And a great start to clinching playoffs right now is beating the Calgary Roughnecks, getting your revenge. The Bandits continue to prove that, hey, losing back-to-back games, at least lately, is a rarity with this team. Like they can drop one of those games, and it's one of those WTF games on the schedule where you're like, I had that as a win, but it turned out to be a blowout loss. Like, what the hell happened there? And then they made up for it and then some the week after. It got the win right back. You don't really see this Bandits team lose back-to-back or maybe go on a losing streak. They do a great job, and I credit Johnny T a lot with this, is rallying the troops and just getting back at it the next week, because losses are going to happen in this league. Nobody's gone undefeated since the 93 Bandits that coincidentally Johnny T was a part of. But you don't see undefeated seasons anymore, at least in the new millennium. You've never seen one. You've never seen one in the late 90s. Losses do happen. It's about how do you regroup from those losses? How do you not let them snowball on you? I think the Bandits are the best in the league at doing that, rebounding off of a bad loss.
Yeah, I mean, after, like you said, with the first loss, after going 7 straight to start off this season, and then just reality checked in, and then we played Calgary, and then go to their house and win again. So basically, it's like, if you can win every game, I would not want to be like the New England Patriots, who's won every single regular season game, won the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl, and then lose the big dance. That's something I don't want to see the Bandits do, and I hope to God they don't like have that kind of mentality, like, oh, we work so hard for every game to win except for the most important game of the year. So for the Bandits to do what they do, I mean, this is great now, especially going towards the playoffs, is that they're relying on their depth, their secondary scoring, and the defense is really becoming a good, got that spark back again, like keeping their team at their opponents at bay. And with Matt Vince playing like he is, especially at his age, and again, we got the Vince doubters once again saying the fact of going into this game, oh, we're not going to beat them we're not going to lose, or we're going to lose back-to-back to Calgary. Let me correct that statement. And then look what he did. Only allowing 6 goals. Yeah, at first, it's like first quarter we were down 3-2, and it's like, this could be another one of those high-type scoring against, like we're going to allow 17 goals or something, and it's going to be embarrassing to come home on the following Friday. But he was dialed up. He locked himself in somewhere, and he put himself into like a mental state going, I can't let these guys down again. I can't let my fans down again.
Yep.
And look what he's done. I really can't explain what goes on inside Matt Vince's head, except whatever you're doing something right. So keep it up. That's all I got to say going into this weekend. But against Vegas and against Albany,
Yeah.
I mean, I would not be disappointed with a split shift if they decide to go Matt Vince one game and Orelman the next. I really wouldn't care about that. But that's up to the coach, and that's up to Matt Vince. So we'll have to wait and see.
And it was the two oldest veterans on the team. Like, no offense to these two, but the two oldest veterans on the team won this game for the Bandits easily. Kyle Buchanan and Matt Vince, without a shadow of a doubt. Kyle Buchanan has been on an insane streak.
Love that boy 91.
For the past month or 5 weeks or so, he's been consistently getting 2 or 3 goals a game. And he's doing more than what we're asking for. I mean, let's be real, as Bandit fans, he's doing way more than we're asking for. I remember last year we were like, is this guy going to come back? Is he going to retire? Like, we don't know. He's playing like he's 10 years younger than he actually is. No signs of slowing down, at least in his gameplay. He's been getting a lot of these great goals, a lot of great fancy goals. And then Matt Vince, obviously, between the pipes, just he comes off of probably his worst performance in a Bandits uniform. And then the very next week against the same team, coming off a vacation at Disney World, holds him to 6 goals. I mean, this is why they're vets. This is why they're seasoned pros. They win you these games. Kyle Buchanan, obviously probably the best forward on the team all night, with 3 goals on his part. And look at Steve Priolo getting back there. You see, Steve Priolo is a great player. When he stays out of the penalty box, he can causing 3 turnovers there and getting the ball back for the Bandits multiple times. The Bandits did a lot better job at scooping up rebounds on the loose balls this week. They were getting absolutely torched and dominated with that last week at home. Calgary was picking up every single loose ball. Same with Saskatchewan the week before. It seemed like they were dominating and swarming the net 65, 70% of the game, and the Bandits somehow got on the winning end of that. But if the ball hit the post, a defenseman's picking the ball up or a transition's picking the ball up, they're not having them reset the shot clock as much anymore. Obviously, you'll have like those lucky bounces where maybe it bounces off of Matt Vince's foot and goes out of play, and then they have to reset the shot clock. They don't have any control of that. But a ball that's in the corner, I saw a lot of Bandit players being the first ones to that ball, scooping it up and getting it out of the zone, which I wasn't seeing over the past month on a consistent basis. And it's good to see that defense turn a corner there, as far as scooping up loose balls and getting more possessions for your offense.
Yeah, it does make a difference when you put that little extra effort in beating your opponent to the loose balls, especially for the fact that you want to take control of the game. We did discuss that in our pregame. What were the keys to beat Calgary? And you have to outplay them in every aspect. Maybe not in the face-off department, maybe not in the special teams, but most importantly, where it all matters, that every shot counts and then bounces their way. So when we got our bounces, the loose balls were coming our way this time. It wasn't because of Calgary getting the breaks back at our, Banditland and then scoring 17 goals, but it kind of feels good when the bounces go your way and you embarrass Calgary, especially after the shellacking we took the past week. So it's nice to see that the little extra effort that you put yourself into, and it does turn of events of changing the game and changing to your favor. So kudos on the Bandits guys for collecting the loose balls and putting that little extra effort and, maintaining control of the game.
Yeah, they absolutely exchanged the favor. They got punched in the mouth, and then they came back and punched Calgary right in the mouth the week after. 11-6 is definitely nothing to scoff about. I mean, we do have the issues still. Face-offs, yep. I would love that. I would love those to be better. Special teams, better. When you have a 5-on-3 power play, you should score at least 1 goal there. I mean, that needs some work, but I think it's time to jump into our player of the game. We kind of gave you
who we got, yes.
Sneak preview of who our player of the game was. Anyone on the defensive side is worthy of winning this player of the game. Sure. But, dude, we said that he had to have a big week coming back. Best week of the season. 48, yes. Matt Vince, player of the game. Bar none. He had a terrible week last week. And just a complete 180 reverse this week. Gives up 17 the week before, only 6 this week, playing on his head the entire time with help of his great defense.
Yep.
Matt Vince, 100%, 44 saves on the night. He's my first star of the game, player of the game.
Yep, 18 goals in 2 games, keeping his average down to 9 against Calgary, which is good in a way. But with Matt Vince, the way he's been playing, especially how he rebounds himself after a tough loss, it's stellar goaltending. It is like a god in between those pipes. And let me tell you something, is that when he's dialed in, he makes sure that the team is, hey guys, I got your back. Just score me the goals that I need, and I will keep them from coming into mine. So good for Matt Vince, and that's a great choice to pick because he is, without a doubt, still the GOAT of goaltending and by far the best I've ever seen in my experience watching lacrosse firsthand. So I really do like that pick. But for me, of course, and I think Mr. Buchanan is hearing this live, I hope, listening in, and I'm going to take your son regardless. Kyle Buchanan, number 91, is my player of the game because of the fact that he has been consistent. He has been the team leader, I think, in my humble, opinion, in my eye view, but to say that number 91 is the unsung hero for this team this year and from previous times. But he is really, age doesn't matter anymore. He feels like he's a young kid at heart, and he's really shown that he's still got game, and there is nothing stopping 91 from doing what he's doing for this team. And I am very proud of number 91 for this game.
And he's still trying to prove that, hey, this team can win 3 in a row with me on this team. And who knows, if they win 3 in a row, maybe he'll stick around for a couple more years. You'll never really know, because it looks like he really
then he's got to come back, because I know him. He'd say if we don't do it, and I'm like, maybe that might be it. But if he wins again, maybe he might want to come back too. So.
I mean, it looks like he hasn't even lost a step. He still looks like Kyle Buchanan. So, and some weeks Matt Vince does as well. And hopefully he can carry that into Friday and Saturday, because I can totally see Matt Vince being like, yeah, I'm playing both games. Like,
yeah,
100%.
I think so too.
And they're playing in Buffalo this week against Las Vegas, and then they travel to Albany, a place where they also dominated last year in the playoffs, on Saturday. So it's gonna be back-to-back weekends for those guys. But hey, the Bandits got 10 wins. They got playoff implications going into this week. We love seeing that, especially in the middle towards the end of March. We didn't see that at all last year, so it's great to see a bit of that this year. The Bandits are 1 win away from tying their season high in wins last year. And it is currently March 18th, 2025. So I can't believe that we're even saying that. It's great that they came out with this fire, with this passion going into this year. Getting a much-needed win against Nick Rose. I did not want the Bandits to split with Nick Rose this year, and where he wins 2 and the Bandits win 2. So every Rose has his thorn, and his thorn in the side is the boys that wear the orange and black jerseys. So that's the thorn that's in his side. And maybe he has a break from the Bandits for a while. We don't know what the standings are going to look like down the road, but who knows? Maybe a quarterfinal matchup would. Maybe we'll see a 5th game between Nick Rose versus the Bandits. Who knows?
That would be pretty legit, and I mean that would definitely bring a lot of people to the stands, or to be like, wow, we're experiencing greatness here just from 2 teams alone, from past memories from 2019 to now. It's just unreal.
Yep.
So it would be great to see what they would do, especially with how it ends up with the 2 teams going into the playoff round.
And Calgary, I know you're listening.
Yes,
and I know imitation is the best form of flattery, but keep our GOAT's name out of your mouth, Chris Swenson.
Yes.
Come up with original stuff. Chris works hard to come up with that stuff. You bring your own stuff, and you try to fire up the crowd. When I see what's he got, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like Swanee. It's not right. It's not right, guys. Come up with your own material. Have fun with Nick Rose in goal, because we all see what Nick Rose is like in the playoffs. And we will take that victory. As the Calgary Roughnecks tweeted out a couple weeks ago when the Bandits lost to them, Calgary takes a huge win in Buffalo, where Buffalo was all lowercase except for the capital L. Guess what? Calgary, that has an L in it too, so we're going to give you a big L there. Big win on the road in lowercase C-A, capital L, lowercase G-A-R-Y. Big win in Calgary, big win in the Saddledome. The Bandits have 10 wins. Hey, we got most, 10-2 on the year. Going into, I don't want to even say cupcake, but I mean, let's just call it what it is. Las Vegas got dismantled over the weekend. I think they gave up 20 goals.
20 goals, and the final score was 20-11.
To 11. You got an extremely vulnerable team coming into your house this Friday, and then you're going off against a team whose playoff hopes are shot, which can mean they have nothing to lose, which can make them a pretty dangerous team in Albany.
Yep.
And they're still really pissed off about the championship too, how that turned out. So why don't we focus on getting a huge victory? Celebrate the Calgary win a little bit. I get it. Business as usual going into Friday night, and we'll talk about that more on the pregame episode. We'll probably do back-to-back pregames and back-to-back postgames just because these weeks are so crazy with all the bye weeks in beginning. We got to catch up with all the pre and post games from the back-to-back weekends after the fact. So Tony is holding his belt right now. He will be in his section wearing the belt.
Yep.
Because when you're the back-to-back champs, why wouldn't you wear a championship belt to a game? That's the main question I got to ask you. But you can wear that for this week too, Tony, because getting a big win against Calgary is always great. That's a team that's been given over the course of the Bandits and Roughnecks history, franchise rivalries, a team that's pretty much dominated the Bandits since the beginning. And the Bandits have had some success lately against them, don't get me wrong, but that's a team that the Bandits have really had struggled to find, climb that hill and beat them. So it's always good to beat a team like that, especially on the road. But Tony, I think it's time to shout out the sponsors.
Yes, indeed. We'd like to thank our main sponsor, which is Mitchell's Tavern, located at 734 Sheridan Drive up in Tonawanda, New York. Guys, if you haven't tried it out yet, mention the boys of Banditland Boulevard, Trevor Hauer, myself, Tony LaMonica, a.k.a. Boxhead98TL. Tell them that we sent you, and I'm guaranteeing you they got amazing service. The food is spectacular. You will not be disappointed at all. Also, we'd like to thank Herney's Journeys. If you want to book your next adventure or vacation, please contact Suzanne Pike at SuzannePike@Herney'sJourneys.com. Let her book your next big adventure. Also, we'd like to thank those who have been watching us here live on StreamYard through YouTube. We'd like to have you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell every time we talk about Buffalo Bandits lacrosse live, and you can see our faces now. But other than that, if you guys want to rather listen in and just check out on your tablets, your phone, your radio stations, go and download Spotify. Give us that 5-star rating that we talk nothing but Buffalo Bandits lacrosse.
That's it. Bandits 11-6 victors over the Calgary Roughnecks. Love seeing it.
10 out of 12 victories this year. What does that tell you?
I would take that 10 out of 10 times. If you told me that before the season started, I would take that. Are you kidding? Yeah. What does that tell you, people? That the Bandits are not going away, and you guys got to deal with it. Despite their flaws, they are still dominating and wrecking teams on the schedule. All they have to do is win these games on their schedule. I think their talent alone should carry them the rest of the way.
I agree.
With that said, 3 words. What are those 3 words that we always sign off, especially after a big 11-6 road victory on the West Coast? What do we say?
I hope you're hearing this because we want to make you proud, and we're going to do this the right way. Here we go.
Swanee, listen up. Listen up.
1, 2, 3. Let's
go, Bandits. That's how you make a call like Swanee.
Back on Friday.
That's how you make a call like Swanee. Whoever the Calgary PA announcer is, take notes. Or no, we don't want you to steal that one. Yeah, no, we don't want you to steal that one.
Stars for the taking.
What do the Calgary Roughnecks got?
Absolutely losses.
They got a loss. They got a loss in the L column. We'll take that. We will take that to the bank, just like how the Bandits will take it to the bank this Friday. Hey, go to the game. Go to the game against Las Vegas. Try to go 11-2. In your face, Calgary. Let's go, Bandits.
Let's go.